Good morning. Okay, I'm going to start out with something that might get me in trouble, but that's okay, because Mark opened the door last week, so I figured it's fine. If you'll do me a favor, if you'll look at your neighbor and tell them it's not over. And if you'll do me a favor and now look at the person, your second choice, the one you ignored, and if you'll tell them that God is going to do great things in your life this week. So if you'll notice in your announcements, and there's also no PowerPoint, I have had some technical difficulties this week, so if you'll bear with me. So what I want you to do in this section where it's just a blank piece of paper, I want you to put what I like to call tweetable quotes. So if you were to post this to somebody of 150 characters or less, I want you to write whatever that would be. Whatever touches you, I want that is what you put in this box. Thank you, Matt, for reading that for me this morning. Now, when Matt was reading this, or when I read this text, I always have a question. It makes me question and it makes me wonder, how did we get here? How did we get to this? And if anyone knows the story about Peter, I hope and pray that maybe you've thought the same question. How did it come to this? How did we get here? I'm going to go ahead and summarize our journey with Peter, if I may. So what do we know about Peter? Well, we know he was always the one that spoke up first. He was the one who was willing to step out of the boat when nobody else would. And yes, he did stand on the water. He sunk, but he was willing to get out of the boat. This is also the same man when Jesus asked, well, who do you say that I am? He says, you're the Messiah. You're the promised king that we've been waiting for. And he was willing to speak out when nobody else would. Now let's fast forward to one of the greatest suppers ever known to man. We practice communion because of this. So all of the apostles are sitting around, all 12 of them are sitting around this dinner table, and Jesus drops a bomb on everyone, and he says, one of you is going to betray me. And then Peter everyone starts trying to figure out, well, it's not me. It can't be me. And then we fast forward a little bit, and Jesus tells Peter, before this night is over, you will deny me 3 times. Let's fast forward maybe a couple hours later, and Jesus is in the garden. Rewind. Also, Peter said, I will never deny you. I will die for you if I have to. There's the faith that we know Peter for. This is the faith that we love Peter for. Then we fast forward to the garden, and the guards come to arrest Jesus. And it's the text, and I believe this is Matthew 26, 52 through 59. I'm going to summarize this through, so if you want to kind of follow along. But what the text says is one of his apostles reached for his sword, pulled it out, and then struck one of the guards and sliced off his ear. And my question to you, does this sound like a man or look like a man that would deny Jesus once, let alone 3 times? To me, I have a hard time seeing that, but then Jesus says something to Peter. This is the Darion paraphrase, but I believe it goes something along like this. Those who draw their sword will die by their sword, will die by the sword. And I believe this confused Peter. Peter was confused. He thought he was doing the right thing. This is the boldness that we know and we love Peter for, is he was willing to die for Jesus there. So what would happen, what transpired in about the next hour to 3 hours? What changed? And so we look at the text, what Matt read for us, and I believe Peter was confused, but he did the one thing that he knew how to do, and he did the one thing that he was good at. Well, he followed Jesus, but he kept his distance, as we see. And as he's following Jesus, this is where it all kind of starts to crumble apart. Luke 22, that we had Matt read for us. So Peter is following Jesus at a distance, and people start to ask him questions. The first one is in verse 56. A servant girl saw him seated there in the firelight. She looked at him closely and said, "This man was with him." But he denied it. "Woman, I don't know the man," he said. A little later, someone else saw him and said, "You are one of them." "Man, I am not." And the third one, a man said, "Certainly this fellow is with them, for he is a Galilean." And to this Peter replied, "Man, I don't know what you're talking about." And just as he's finishing his sentence, a rooster crows. A rooster crows. And the text says in verse 61, as this rooster crows and as Peter finishes his sentence, in verse 61 it says, the Lord turned and looked straight at Peter. And then the text continues on to say, then Peter remembered the word of the Lord had spoken. Before the rooster crows today, you will deny me 3 times. And at this moment, I believe Peter felt like he had a sharp dagger that just stabbed him right through the heart. Because he had now done the one thing that he swore he would never do. He has now done the one thing that he has done the one thing that he said he would never do. He thought he would never do, and he believed that he would never do. See, Peter had just disowned the one man that gave him purpose in his life. Peter had just disowned the man who took him from a lousy fisherman to being somebody. And it was in this moment that Peter was broken and he was lost. And so I have a question for us. And it says he wept bitterly, but I have a question. Have we ever felt that maybe we've gotten to a point in our faith where maybe you've questioned it all? That maybe you've asked yourself, is this really worth going through? Is it really worth all the pain? Is it really worth all the struggle? Is it worth it really? I like to pretend other people are there with me so I don't feel weird, but maybe not. But for me, I had a moment like that, and it was right before I went to OC. I'm going to try not to mention any names. If I do, sorry. Okay, just letting that. So, my friend called me over to his house one day. And this friend was one of my 2 pillars. Yes, when I was young, I had to have pillars. These were the people that I placed on my pedestal, so to speak. These were the people that helped me understand who Jesus was. And this friend of mine calls me to his house. I'm sitting on his couch, and he tells me, Darion, I have converted to Judaism. And the question that overarched me was, how did it come to this? How is it that this person could come from what I believed he was over here to over here? I remember he was one of the first people that took a chance to get to know me, took a chance to show me love whenever I had to leave, when I left home. He was one of the people who showed me that maybe Christians aren't all a bunch of liars and hypocrites and jerks. He made me believe that maybe there is a God, because he showed me what it truly meant to be like Christ. This is the man that when my brother was killed, he came and we came and went to our favorite booth at Cheddar's, and we ate Philly cheesesteaks together, and he was there, and he helped me understand that it's going to be okay. Fast forward a little bit, this is the man, he went on this mission trip, and I was so proud, but I was also so upset that he was leaving for 11 months here, and I felt like, well, I need to step up because somebody needs to fill that void. This is the man who called me when I felt like I had lost my path, when I was sitting, I'm emotional, guys, if you haven't got that. I'm sitting in my car, and he calls me because he'd heard that me and my ex had just broken up for the final time, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, what did you do when you and your girlfriend broke up the first time? Because they had gotten back together right before we went on this mission trip. And he told me, he said, honestly, Darion, I threw myself in the church. When the doors were open, I was there. When there was a service, I was there. I did not add hours to my job. I decided to cut them back so I could spend time with Jesus, because that's where I need to be, and that's where I need to stand, is with Christ. See, if it wasn't for him, I probably wouldn't be standing here right now. If it wasn't for the words that he told me, I wouldn't be here right now. Because I would have gone on to law school or something like that, because that's where I felt my life was headed until I came face to face with Jesus. See, he lit the match that set the fire ablaze. Fast forward, he comes back from this mission trip. I don't hear from him much. I don't see him much, and I'm confused. I figured when he came back, he would start teaching. He would start doing the old things that he did, but he didn't. Until one day, I'm sitting down with one of my mentors, Rusty, and he gives me this riddle that didn't make sense, but I have to believe that I have to act like I know what he's talking about. Anybody know what I'm talking about here? He tells me, Darion, don't put your faith in people because they're going to let you down. And then a couple days later, I'm sitting down on his couch, and he tells me, Darion, I've converted to Judaism. And at this moment, I have to act like I have it all together, because obviously I have to do that, because I need to be there for him. I need to act like I'm not judging him. But inside, a part of me had shattered. Doubt started to string in my mind. And I remember leaving his house, or leaving his apartment, and on my way home, crying my eyes out. And thinking to myself, oh my God, what am I going to do? I can't do this. I'm not, if he can fall, I'm done for. I'm toast. I don't stand a chance. He was there for everything, and now that this pillar is gone, I don't stand a chance. And as I'm getting on the road to turn to get to where I need to be, an overwhelming calming just came to me. And I believe to this day it was God. And what I felt God was telling me in that moment was, Darion, do you not understand that I've been there since the beginning? Do you not understand I was there when your dad passed away? Do you not understand that I was there through all of the boyfriends your mom had and how abusive it may have been? Do you not understand that I led you to the church so that you could know me? Do you not understand that I was there when your brother died? Do you not understand that when you were lost and broken, that wasn't Matt that was speaking to you, that was me? See, I believe we need to get to the point where we understand that the only person that we really need is Jesus, and everything else, it'll come and go. But I believe in that moment, we come back to Peter. Peter was lost. I believe Peter was close to throwing in the towel, just as I was. Because Peter had already messed up too bad, he thought. I had denied Jesus 3 times, it's over. That's all you get in the rules of baseball. It's 3 strikes and you're out. Peter believed that he was out. But I believe Jesus had something different in mind. I believe Jesus was not going to let this be the end of him. So now if everyone will turn with me to John 21. while you're turning there, I'm going to give us a background of what's going on. So the apostles know that Jesus is dead, and they're now all back to what they were doing before. So they're out on the boat, and they're fishing, and they're putting their line in the water, and they're not catching anything. Then a man comes to them and says, throw your line on the other side of the boat. And so they do this, and when they pull it up, I believe the text says that the fish were ripping the net. And then John says, it's the Lord. And so they come to shore, and then they eat a meal together, and then Jesus takes his time to speak with Peter. See, this is a conversation that everyone knew was coming eventually. So if you're in John 21, start picking up in verse 15 and continuing on to 19, it says, when they had finished eating, Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these? Yes, Lord, he said. You know that I love you. Jesus said, feed my lambs. Again, Jesus said, Simon, son of John, do you love me? He answered, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. Jesus said, take care of my sheep. The third time he said to him, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Peter was hurt because Jesus asked him the third time, do you love me? He said, Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you. Jesus said, feed my sheep. Very truly, I tell you, when you were younger, you dressed yourself and went where you wanted. But when you are older, you will stretch out your hands, and someone else will dress you, and they will take you where you do not want to go. Jesus said this to indicate the kind of death by which Peter would glorify God. Then he said to him, follow me. Then he said to him, follow me. So Jesus asked Peter a pretty simple question. Peter, do you love me more than these? Well, the first question that we need to ask ourselves in this is, who are these? Who is Jesus applying to? Well, here's what I believe Jesus is applying to. Do you love me more than these? There's 10 other guys with Peter at this moment because we know that Jesus is eating dinner with the apostles. And so what I believe Jesus is asking is, Peter, do you love me more than these people that are around you? Do you love me more than your peers that are here right now? And I believe at this moment, Peter is almost breathing in a sigh of relief. Okay, I know what I did was wrong, but maybe I'm okay right now. And Peter says, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. And then Jesus gives him a riddle, so to speak, and he says, feed my lambs. I believe Peter at this moment is a little confused, but I believe he's still breathing in that sigh of relief at the moment that maybe it's going to be okay. Until Jesus asked him the question again. Simon, son of John, do you love me? And Peter replies, you know I love you, Lord. And Peter's like, maybe he's just double checking that he's not that I heard the question right, that I understood it right. Until he asks the question a third time. Oh, and then he says, take care of my sheep. But the third time he says to him, Simon, son of John, do you love me? And I believe at this moment, Peter's starting to have this ball that's growing in his throat, and he starts to feel the dagger, the pain setting back in. And I believe in this moment, maybe, just maybe, Peter hears a rooster crow, and then he remembers, this man is a Galilean. Surely he was with him. And he says, man, I do not know what you're talking about. Then the rooster crows, and then he pictures Jesus looking right at him. And the pain sets back in from that night. And I believe at this moment, Peter is doing everything that he can to hold himself together. And he says, Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you. And Jesus gives him the response, feed my sheep. Feed my sheep. See, here's what I want us to understand. Is Jesus asked Peter 3 times, do you love me? Because Peter denied Jesus not long ago 3 times. See, Jesus needed to restore Peter as many times as he denied him so that Peter will understand that I know that I messed up. And what Jesus is telling Peter in this moment is, I know you messed up. I know you did wrong. I know you did the one thing that you said you would never do. I know you trust me, and I know you love me, but I need you to know that I love you too. I need you to know that I'm going to be here. I need the Peter that I know and love. I need the Peter that is willing to step out of the boat and step on the water. Yeah, you sunk, but that's okay, because I need the faith that you have. You are the one who's willing to step out when nobody else will, say what needs to be said when nobody else will, and I'm going to use that. But I need you to know that I love you and that I trust you, and I'm always going to be there for you, even when it gets tough. And so continuing on with our text, Jesus gives him a riddle. After he says, feed my sheep, he says, very truly I tell you, when you were younger, you dressed yourself and went where you wanted. But when you were older, you will stretch out your hands, and someone else will dress you and lead you where you do not want to go. Jesus said this to indicate the kind of death by which Peter would glorify God. See, the reason why I'm stretching out my hand is that we know from history that Peter would be crucified upside down. I can't stand on my head, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do it standing up. But Jesus tells Peter that, hey, I know you love me, but I'm also going to tell you the road ahead of you is going to be tough. There's going to be struggles, there's going to be trials, there's going to be tribulations. You're going to be persecuted. And you're ultimately going to die in my name. But I'm here to tell you that I'm going to be with you the whole way. And Jesus finishes with giving him a command. He says, follow me. Follow me. And this is the same command that he gives us, is follow me. And here's what I want us to understand. Jesus does not look at who you were in the past. Jesus does not look at who you've been. Jesus does not look at what you used to think, what you used to know, what you used to believe, or whatever it may be. Jesus looks at who you are right now today. And he realizes, and I'm willing to bet that he understands that you are a project. And as any project, you're not the completed fashion yet. You're not complete yet, but you will be whenever you meet him in heaven. Because he's always working on us. We're always growing. Can I just tell you that you're never too far gone? That there is nowhere you can run for you to be away from God? And I know some of you here might be thinking to yourself today that, Darion, you're wrong. I am too far gone. Do you not know that I have sinned? Do you not know that I'm addicted to the bottle? Do you not understand that I'm addicted to some kind of substance that gets me a high? Do you not understand that I'm divorced? Do you not understand what I've been through? Do you not understand how bad that I used to be, or how bad I was, or how bad that I am? Jesus doesn't look at that. And here's how I can prove this to you. I'm going to remind us of a man. This is one of my favorite people in the Bible, because I believe if he can get into heaven, I can get into heaven. I'm going to remind us of a man named Saul. This man would later become Paul, but let's look back at Saul for a moment. Let's take a moment to take a gander at him. So what do we know about Saul? Well, we first see Saul as he's at the stoning of Stephen, and they're laying all of their coats at his feet, and he approves of this murder. I don't know if that makes any sense to you guys, but that kind of places him in the Al Capone era. And this man was a murderer. This man had one goal, to destroy the church. And I'm almost positive that we don't have any murderers in here. And if we do, I'm sure your goal was not to destroy the church. But Jesus comes to this man. Jesus meets Paul right face to face. He meets Saul face to face. And he gives a question. He asks him a question, why are you persecuting me? Then he's blinded, and then Saul becomes Paul, and then he goes off and reaches the Gentiles and brings the Gentiles to the faith. And what Jesus is saying, and what this proves, is that it doesn't matter how far you think that you are not far enough away from God for him not to reach you. And so Jesus gives us the same question that he asked Peter. I'm going to fill in my name, and I want you guys to fill in your name in this as well. But he says, Darion, son of Jerry, do you love me? Yes, Lord. You know that I love you, and feed my lambs. Again he asks, Darion, son of Jerry, do you love me? You know that I love you, Lord. Take care of my sheep. And the third time he asks, Darion, son of Jerry, do you love me? And then I start to have my own sin, my own past come back to me, and I remember who I was, where I've been, everything that I've been through to get here, and I'm so grateful that I do have a God that loves me enough that says, Darion, you are beautiful in my eyes. And as I come through with all the pain of the past, I say, Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you. See, the command is simple. The command is simple for all of us. If we love Jesus, we are going to be willing to take care of his sheep. If we love Jesus, we are going to be willing to feed his sheep. And we're going to be a church that's going to go out and to show people the love of God. Why? Because we love Jesus. And that's what we do know. We know the path may be hard, the path may be difficult, the path may have moments where we're questioning whether we want to do this anymore, but that's okay because that's what God has called us to do. He's called us to follow him, and anything else that comes in the way after that, we've got to keep on trucking along. Because if Jesus faced persecution, I promise you, and if Jesus died, we are not promised anything better. Only thing we're promised in this life is heaven. So maybe today, you're a Jesus follower. I mean, I believe most of everyone in this room, if not everyone in this room, is a Jesus follower. But maybe you're here and you're asking yourself, I don't know if the love of God covers me anymore. I mean, I want to believe. I'm hanging on by a thread right now, but I don't know if I'm still saved. I don't know if I still have salvation. I don't know if that's still for me. Because I've gone over here to the left and I'm inspecting daisies, but really where I need to be is over here, but I'm just too far gone. God failed me, and I'm here to tell you today, God has not failed you. You may be in a place where God does not want you to be today, but I promise you what he's calling you to do is to come back. He says, let me light the fire in your heart again. Let me show you where you need to be. Let me love you. Let me show you what it means to be alive and to live life to the fullest through me. Or maybe there is someone here today who's searching for purpose. And you've searched everywhere. If you know me, you know one thing I speak a lot about is purpose. What is the purpose of it all? So you've searched for purpose. You maybe started with the bottle. And you realize that, man, this is great, but I always wake up hungover the next day and sick. Or maybe you've gone to drugs and you thought, man, I love this high, but the problem is it goes away, and the sad thing is you always search this first high, and you can't ever seem to find it. And so you keep having to do more and more, and before you know it, you have a drug problem, and it becomes large, and you can't control it. So now you're stealing from everybody that you know just to find that high. Or maybe Maybe you're trying to find your purpose in relationships. And here's the problem with relationships, is that a lot of times they come and go. And you need something more solid, you need something more secure. And so then you realize that maybe relationships isn't the answer to my question or the answer to my search. Or maybe today you've tried to find your purpose within your job. That, man, if I work up the ladder and I do well and everything that I believe in counts in my job, then I am going to be fine. But what do you do when you lose your job? Then you're broken again. I've done a lot of all of these things. And I'll tell you that I couldn't find purpose in any of them. The only place that I have ever found true purpose is in Jesus Christ, the one who is, who was, and is to come. He's the one who gave me meaning in my life. He taught me how to live. He showed me what love truly is. And he changed my life. And maybe you're here thinking today, well, I want this. I want this relationship. How do I do this? Well, you give your confession that you believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. He is the promised Messiah. And then you also confess that he did die for you and died for your sins. And then you are baptized in the waters of baptism for the remission of your sins. And then you begin your new life. Jesus says, "Come to me, all who are weary, and I will give you rest." So if there's anything that this church can do for you this morning, please come as we stand and as we sing.